Kathy's 2 years at the cottages are a bridge between her childhood at Hailsham and her adulthood as a carer. Her memories of the cottages accordingly occupy the book's middle section of the book, between the sections focused on Hailsham and on her work as a carer. The cottages are a transitional space, where the self-sufficient students wait out the time until they begin their adult lives. For Kathy and her friends, life at the cottages begins to push the memory of Hailsham further and further into the past. At the cottages, they are living for the first time among non-Hailsham students. The presence of these veteran students places a new strain on Kathy's relationship with Ruth. While Kathy holds tightly to the memory of Hailsham, she is frustrated with Ruth's readiness to let it go in her attempts to befriend the veterans. In other ways, life at the cottages actually recalls life at Hailsham. The students continue their academic pursuits, although they do so less formally than they did at Hailsham. The cottages remain somewhat isolated from the outside world, and donations remain a somewhat taboo topic among the veterans who live there. And as the rumor about deferrals shows, speculation and rumor circulate at the cottages much in the way they did at Hailsham. The search for Ruth's possible in Norfolk shows how both the Hailsham students and veterans at the cottages build their hopes on the basis of rumors. The failure of that search shows them moving closer to adulthood, where a childlike belief in possibility has become much more difficult to sustain. Kathy is an unreliable narrator. On one level, her memory is unreliable. Kathy's point of view is retrospective. She reflects on the past years of her life, recalling memories from as far back as early childhood. Kathy repeatedly admits that she may be misremembering certain details, and often says that Tommy or Ruth remembered a particular episode differently. While her memories are roughly chronological, Kathy also tends to skip around in time. For instance, her memory of Tommy's tantrum on the football field takes her back several years to the memory of Tommy's elephant watercolor in art class. These quirks in Kathy's narration highlight the subjective nature of memory itself. Kathy's many asides about not remembering details show that she recognizes the unreliability of her memory and wishes to communicate that uncertainty to the reader. However, Kathy is also unreliable because she masks information from the reader. Kathy is a restrained and subtle narrator, especially when it comes to her emotions. She never directly tells the reader that she loves Tommy, showing how much she cares by indirect means instead. While Kathy's love for Tommy is an underlying source of her tension with Ruth, Kathy tends to redirect this tension to other issues. Noticeably, Kathy remains calm when Ruth confronts her about Tommy at the bus shelter near the cottages. But Kathy snaps at Ruth when their conversation turns to Hailsham, expressing her annoyance that Ruth pretends to forget details about their childhood. Kathy's narration continues to mute her feelings for Tommy through the end of the novel, when she describes her controlled emotional state after his death. Kathy guards her emotions through her restrained narration, requiring the reader to interpret her words and actions for signs of her true feelings. 1. How do the fantasies that Kathy and her friends imagine at Hailsham compare with those they imagine as young adults? 2. Compare Kathy and Ruth's relationship at Hailsham with their relationship at the cottages and later on at Ruth's recovery center. How does their friendship change over time? In what ways does it remain the same? 3. Kathy makes several notable car trips, including 2 visits to Norfolk. What role does driving play in the novel? What elements do her many car trips have in common, and what sets them apart from one another? 4. In his early notes for Never Let Me Go, Ishiguro referred to it as the student's novel. Why is it important that Kathy and her peers are students? What role do their studies play in the novel? 5. What is the effect of the novel's alternate historical timeline? Why might Ishiguro have chosen to set the novel in the 1990s, rather than sometime in the future?